I'm not your pet slave. The auction ground smelled like smoke and fear. Chains rattled as weak, tired humans stood in lines. Their clothes were torn. Their eyes were empty. They were slaves, taken from Earth, brought to this cold, alien world. Called XER Ion-5.1, girl stood different. Her name was Arya. She looked small, but her eyes were full of fire. Even when the alien guards pushed her, she didn't cry. She didn't beg. She stared straight ahead, like she still had hope. A deep voice echoed in the market. Bring out the human female, the young one. Everyone turned to look. A tall, terrifying figure walked forward. Commander Vexor, half armor, half flesh, blue skin, red eyes. A powerful alien warlord. People said he had killed planets. He was not here to buy a slave. He was here for something else. Two guards dragged Arya forward. She tripped, fell, then stood up on her own. She stared at Vexor with hatred. He walked around her slowly. You speak? He asked, his voice low. Arya didn't answer. He leaned closer. You are not like the others. Still no reply. He raised his hand, not to hit her, but to touch her face. Arya slapped it away. I'm not your pet slave. She shouted. The market went silent. Everyone froze. Slaves were not allowed to speak and never to shout at a buyer. But Vexor didn't get angry. He smiled. Interesting. He threw a bag of glowing stones to the seller. I'll take her. The transport ship was quiet. Arya sat alone in a small room. She wasn't in chains now. There was no cage, just soft lights and strange music in the background. She didn't trust it. She sat in a corner, hugging her knees. Watching the door, her stomach growled. She hadn't eaten in days. Then the door opened. Vexor entered, holding a tray of food. Warm soup, soft bread, fresh water. I don't eat leftovers, Arya said, trying to sound strong. This is not leftover, he replied, placing the tray on the table. It's for you. She didn't move. He turned to leave, then paused. You'll freeze on the floor. The bed is clean and warm. I'm not your pet, she whispered again, her voice softer this time. He nodded once, then walked out. Hours. Past the room felt colder now. Her skin was shaking. Her bones hurt. Hunger made her dizzy. But still, she didn't touch the food. She didn't sleep on the bed. She was a human. She had pride, but her body didn't care. Slowly, her hands reached. The bowl, the soup smelled like something from Earth, maybe chicken. She tasted it. Just one spoon. Then another. Then the whole bowl was empty. She wiped her mouth quickly, ashamed. But it tasted so good. Later, she curled up in a corner. She couldn't stay awake. The floor was too cold. Her body gave up. She crawled toward the big chair in the room. Maybe she could rest there. To her surprise, Vexor was sitting there. Reading some alien text, she froze. But he didn't move. He just looked down at her and said nothing. Her body was too tired to argue anymore. Slowly, like a stray cat, she crawled closer and curled up beside him. He was warm, like a furnace, not flesh, something else, but warm. Her body relaxed, without permission. Her eyes closed as she drifted to sleep. She whispered again, I'm not your pet. But this time, there was no anger in her voice, just confusion. Vexor looked down at her. A human, a species everyone called weak. A race sold and traded like animals. Yet, this girl had shouted at him. She had looked him in the eye. No fear, no begging, only strength. He didn't understand it. He didn't understand her. But for the first time in years, he was curious, and curiosity was dangerous. Asterisk silence. That was the first thing Arya noticed when she woke up. Not screaming, not pain. Not the sound of chains, just ... silence. She opened her eyes slowly. She was lying on a soft bed, wrapped in something warm. The light was soft. The walls glowed gently with a blue shade. There was no cage, no guard. She sat up fast, heart pounding. "Where am I?" she whispered. Her memory came back slowly. The alien market, the cold floor, and then, curling up beside Commander Vexer. She gasped and looked around. He wasn't there. Only a tray of food on the table. She stared at it. For a long time, hot steam was rising from the bowl, something with meat and vegetables. Next to it was a glass of clear water. Her stomach ached again. But Arya didn't move. It felt wrong. She wasn't supposed to be here. She was a slave, wasn't she? Why would he give her a bed? Why warm food? Why? Care. The door opened. She jumped. Vexar. Entered, without armor this time. He looked taller without it. His skin was glowing faintly under the soft lights, and strange marks moved slowly along his arms. Tattoos, or maybe something living. He said nothing at first. Just looked at her. Arya sat still on the bed, silent, stiff, like a statue. Then he walked to the table and nodded at the food. "You should eat." She narrowed her eyes. "Why?" "Because you need strength." "I don't need your help." "You do," he said calmly. "You just don't want to admit it." She stood up. Voice sharp now. "Why do you care if I eat? You bought me like an animal." He didn't react. "I'm not one of your machines," she snapped. "I'm not your pet. You can't fix me with food." Vexer walked slowly to the window and looked out. Stars moved past. They were in space. "I didn't buy you for comfort," he said finally. "I bought you because you're different." "Different?" "How?" she asked bitterly. "Because I talk back." He turned his head slightly. "Because you haven't given up." That surprised her. No one had ever said that before. Most aliens called her stubborn or defective, not strong, he continued. Most humans I see are broken, silent, afraid. You looked me in the eye and shouted, "I taught you to kill." "Me," she whispered. "I thought I would too," he replied. They stood in silence for a moment. Only the quiet hum of the ship filled the room. Finally, Arya walked to the table. She didn't sit. Just picked up the glass of water and drank slowly. Vexer watched her. "You want me to obey you?" she asked, wiping her mouth. "No," he said. "I want to understand you." That was worse. That made no sense. "You bought me," she said. Again, "That makes you a master." Or worse, "You don't want to understand a slave." "I don't believe in slaves," he said simply. "Then let me go." He was silent. That silence was her answer. That night, Arya explored her room. She didn't find any locks. No guards, no cameras she could see. But it wasn't freedom. It was just a prettier cage. She opened a drawer and found something strange. A silver bracelet with symbols. It glowed when she touched it, then dimmed. She put it down quickly. Outside her window, the stars kept moving. She whispered to herself, "What does he want from me?" Her hands touched her stomach, still warm from the food. Her body was healing, but her heart was still locked. Later, Vexer watched her through a screen in another room. Not spying, observing. The scanner showed something strange. Her DNA was reacting to the ship's core energy. That wasn't normal. "Commander," his assistant said, entering, "she's just a human. Why are we wasting time?" Vexer didn't answer. He looked at the screen where Arya had fallen asleep on the bed now, not the floor. "She's not like the others," he said. "She's more than she knows." Far away, in deep space. A signal blinked. A human rebel ship had received a strange trace, a human life sign. On a Zarian warship, Captain Rilo leaned forward. Prepare to intercept. Whoever that is, we're getting them out. He had no idea that the girl they were coming to save wasn't sure if she wanted to be saved anymore. In the engine room of the ship, something was wrong. A control panel started glowing on its own. Lights flickered. Symbols changed. The system made a soft sound, like it was waiting for someone, but no one had touched it. The Zarian engineer stared. At the screen, Commander, he whispered through the comm. The ship, it's reacting. But to what? Arya didn't know she had entered a restricted area. She had woken up early, and no one stopped her when she wandered out of her room. There were no chains, no locks, just long, quiet halls filled with strange blue lights and humming walls. She didn't plan to escape, not yet. She just wanted answers. Who was this Vexor? Why was she treated like a guest? Why did the ship feel familiar? Her bare feet stepped onto the cold metal floor as she entered a control room. She froze. Alien machines lined the walls. Symbols glowed. Tubes pulsed like veins. It all looked alive. She reached out slowly, curious. Her fingers touched a round panel. Click. A soft light moved under her skin. The panel blinked. Then, something unbelievable happened. The machine opened. Gently, like a flower blooming in slow motion. Arya pulled back, shocked. What was that? From behind her, a voice spoke sharply. You're not allowed here. She turned. An alien officer stood there, angry, armed, ready to call security. Before she could explain, Vexor appeared behind the officer. Let her be, he ordered. But I said, let her be. The officer stepped away, eyes wide with confusion and fear. Later, in a private chamber, Vexor stared at Arya across a table. His tone was cold, but curious. You touched the energy panel. It responded to you. I didn't mean to, she said. It shouldn't react to a human at all. She crossed her arms. Maybe your machine likes me. He ignored the joke. Have you ever touched alien tech before? No. Any experiments done on you? No. Any strange events in your past? She looked away. Her voice dropped. Everything since I was taken is strange. Vexor walked to a screen and brought up the ship's core system. It had recorded energy spikes. Small, but real, exactly when she touched it. You activated something we didn't even know was there, he said. This ship runs on an ancient energy, Prezarian. Nobody really understands it. Why are you telling me this? Because I think you're connected to it. That's impossible, is it? Arya felt her chest tighten. This wasn't just about food anymore. Or kindness, or slavery. Something inside her had changed. Or maybe something had always been there. Waiting, she whispered. What do you want from me? Vexor answered without hesitation. The truth, meanwhile, far in space. Captain Rilo's human rebel ship picked up a second signal. That's not just a life sign, his tech said. That's energy interference. Like human DNA reacting with alien code. Rilo narrowed his eyes. That means they've found one of them. One of what? Asked a young pilot. Rilo turned toward the window, watching the stars fly by. One of the keys. Back on the ship, Arya sat alone in her room. Her hands still tingled from the machine she touched. What was happening to her? She looked at her palm and whispered, "Why me?" But deep inside, she already knew the answer. She had always been different, even on Earth, even before the capture. Now, the ship itself was whispering back, not in words, but in light. Asterisk, the stars were not silent anymore. In the dark of space, hidden between asteroid shadows, a human ship moved like a ghost. It was old, scarred, loud with engine heat and rebel voices. Inside, a red light blinked on the main console, signal detected. Human DNA, confirmed. Location Zarian warship. Captain Rilo leaned forward. His eyes were sharp. His jaw was tense. "Is it a trap?" he asked. His officer shook his head. Signal came from inside. Weak, like someone is trying not to be found. Rilo stared at the screen. "Then someone wants to be saved." On the alien ship, Arya sat in her room, holding something she wasn't supposed to have. A small, cracked human communicator. She found it hidden in the lining of her old slave clothes. Maybe a forgotten piece from another prisoner. Maybe left there on purpose. Now it was blinking. She had pressed one button by accident, and now someone out there knew she was alive. She panicked. What if Vexor knew? What if this was all a test? She rushed to the bathroom and opened the small vent in the wall. She hid the communicator behind the pipes. Her heart was pounding. Why was she scared? Wasn't this what she wanted? Rescue? Escape? Her people? Then why did her hands shake? That night, Vexor called her to the command bridge. He didn't say why. As she entered, she saw the stars all around. The control panels, the officers standing still like statues, and one glowing dot on the screen. "Do you know what that is?" he asked. She shook her head. "No." He studied her. Not angry, just curious. Always curious. "It's a human rebel ship," he said, heading straight toward us. Her throat tightened. He looked at her carefully. "I haven't told anyone else." "Not yet." "Why tell me?" "Because I think they're here for you." Silence filled the room. She looked at the glowing dot again. The rebels, her people, coming to save her. But it didn't feel simple anymore. She whispered, "What will you do when they arrive?" "That depends on you," Vexor said. "If you want to, go with them. I will not stop you." That surprised her. No threat, no force, no control. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you let me go?" "Because if you are meant to be free," he said, "no cage can hold you." Later, back in her room, Arya sat in the dark, thinking. Apart. Of her wanted to run, leave this ship, this alien, this strange comfort behind. Go back to humans. Go back to real life. But another part. Remembered the way the ship responded to her touch. The way Vexor treated her like something more than a prisoner. A part of her didn't feel like a slave anymore. She felt like something else, far in space. Captain Rilo prepared for boarding. Once we're on that ship, we take her back. No talking, no waiting. If the alien resists, we fight. The rebel soldiers nodded, weapons charged, hearts ready. But Rilo hesitated. "She might not want to come," he said softly. Back on the ship, Arya stood by the window, watching the rebel ship. "Come closer," she whispered. "What am I supposed to do?" Behind her, the communicator blinked again. Message received. "Hold on, Arya. We're coming." Vexor had a rule: do not care. Caring leads to hesitation. Hesitation leads to death. He had followed that rule all his life. As a soldier, as a commander. But tonight, he stood alone in the medical room, staring at an old scar on his chest, a scar shaped like a human handprint, small, faded, but never gone. Years ago, on a dying battlefield, a young human child had saved his life. She could have run. She should have, but she stayed. She pressed her hand against his wound and cried for help. Vexor never forgot that he didn't understand why that moment stayed inside him. Like a spark that refused to die until now. Until Arya, meanwhile, stood at the doorway of the medical room, unseen. Listening, she had woken from a strange dream. Stars falling, fire in her hands, voices calling her key. Unable to sleep, she had followed the sound of low breathing and found Vexor inside. His armor was off. His posture wasn't strong. He looked human. She had never seen him like this before. He turned suddenly. "You shouldn't be here," he said. She stepped inside anyway. "What happened to you?" she asked. He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "Come in." He walked over to a console and brought up a memory hologram, a replay from years ago. A battlefield. A younger Vexor, wounded smoke, fire, and then a little human girl, running toward him, not away, saving him. "Why did she help you?" Iria asked, softly. "I don't know," he replied. "She disappeared after that. I never saw her again." "Maybe she saw something in you," Iria said. "Something worth saving." He looked at her carefully. "Do you?" Arya didn't answer, because she didn't know yet. Later, they sat in silence in the ship's observation room. Just stars beyond the glass. "Why me?" she asked. "Why treat me differently?" "I don't know," he said truthfully. First, I thought it was curiosity. A rare human, defiant, unbroken. He paused. But now, I wasn't supposed to care. Arya looked away, emotions rising inside her she didn't ask for. "You bought me," she said quietly. "You still did that?" "I did," he replied. She stood up. "And now my people are coming, and I have to choose." He stood too. "You do?" She walked to the door. "What if I choose them? I'll let you go." She turned back. "What?" "If I don't," Vexor's voice dropped to a whisper, "then I'll stay." At that moment, the ship shook. The rebels had arrived. Red lights flashed. A voice echoed over the speakers. "Human ship detected. Shields active. They are requesting boarding." Arya's heart thud. DED. The time had come. Captain Rylo's ship docked. Blasters ready. Faces hard. He expected a rescue. What he didn't expect was Arya waiting at the door, calm, unchained. Strong, he blinked. "We're here to take you home." She didn't move. "And what if this is my home now?" Rylo looked past her. Vexor, standing behind. His eyes narrowed. "What has he done to you?" "Nothing," Arya said. "He let me choose." The air grew heavy. One step forward, and war could begin. But one word from her could stop everything. Arya stood between two worlds. One she came from, one she never asked for, and in the center. Her choice, asterisk. There are moments when time stops moving. For Arya, this was one of them. She stood between two sides, her past and her present. Behind her, Vexor, the alien who bought her but never broke her. In front of her, Captain Rylo, the human who came to rescue her but looked at her like she was already lost. Her heart pounded like a drum. She thought this moment would feel like freedom. Instead, it felt like war. "Step away from him," Rylo ordered, weapon raised. "You're not safe." "I'm not in chains," Arya said. "You're in his head." "That's worse." Arya stared at the blaster pointed at Vexor's chest. Rylo didn't see her as someone who made a choice. He saw her as a hostage, a victim. She hated that more than chains. An explosion rocked the ship. Everyone stumbled, lights flickered red. "Commander," a Zarian officer shouted. "Rebel ship is trying to breach the main core." Vexor turned to Arya. "They didn't come to rescue you. They came to steal the ship." Rylo didn't deny it. "This ship runs on something ancient, something human. She's the key." He pointed at her now. "That's why we need her." Arya's blood turned cold. She wasn't just a person anymore. She was a tool, again. Vexor stepped between her and the rebels. She's not going anywhere. Weapons rose. Tension snapped like wire pulled too tight. Arya screamed, "Stop." Everyone froze. She walked forward, her voice shaking. I'm not your tool, she said to Relo. I'm not your project, she said to Vexor. I'm not your slave. I'm not your key. I'm not your mission. I'm me. She turned. To Vexor, you said I could choose. He nodded. She turned to Rilo. You said you came to save me. Then let me save myself. She walked to the wall and opened the hidden panel. Inside, a detonator. She had found it yesterday while wandering the lower decks. She didn't know why she picked it. Maybe part of her was still planning to escape. Maybe part of her still didn't trust anyone. Now it sat heavy in her hand. One button could destroy the ship's power. One button could stop this war. She stared at it. Her thumb hovered. Vexor watched her silently. Rilo shouted, Arya, no, that'll kill us all. Arya whispered, not if I disable the core first. She pressed a second button. Not the detonator, the override. Lights dimmed. The ship powered down slowly. The core began to sleep. No one died, but no one could run. Now, she said, voice calm, no one gets to use me. Vexor stared at her like she was something holy. Rilo just looked confused. So what now? You stay here? With him? Arya turned. To both of them, I stay with the truth, with whoever respects it. That night, the rebel ship pulled away. They didn't take her. They didn't fight again. They didn't understand. And Arya didn't need them to. Vexor stood with her on the empty bridge. You stopped them, he said. You stopped me too. She smiled faintly. You were never the enemy. He looked at her carefully. Then what am I? You looked out the window, stars stretching forever. I don't know yet, she said. But neither do I know what I am. The ship floated in. Silence, dark, dark alive, waiting, and inside it, one human girl, finally in control of her own story. In the heart of the ship, the lights slowly came back to life. Not with noise, not with weapons, but with purpose. Arya stood in the center of the core chamber, arms slightly raised, eyes glowing faintly with reflected energy. She wasn't scared anymore. The ship knew her now, and she knew it. Outside, stars shifted position. The Zarian warship was no longer drifting. It was responding, moving, listening not to Vexor, not to commands, to her. Elsewhere, Vexor sat quietly in the command room, watching the logs from the day before. Every choice Arya made, she could have destroyed him. She could have left. She did neither. She chose something harder. She chose truth, he whispered to himself. She chose humanity. But not just human blood. She chose the idea of humanity. Freedom, reason, respect, power with kindness. And now, others had noticed. A communication alert. Flashed unknown signal. It wasn't from Earth, not from the rebels. Something ancient. Arya entered the command room as the message played. A voice, not human, not alien, echoed across the ship. Core. Identified, pattern matched. Earth origin user confirmed. Directive, transfer command. Awaiting confirmation. Vexor looked at her. You activated something older than this empire. She nodded slowly. Are you afraid? He asked. No, she said. But I'm listening. Later, Arya stood before the crew, both Zarian officers and freed alien workers from captured worlds. No chains, no weapons. Just silence. They were waiting to see who she was. She didn't give a speech. She asked a question. Do you want to build something better? No one moved at first. Then a single hand rose, then another, then dozens. They didn't follow her out of fear. They followed her because she gave them a choice. 1 week later, the rebels received a message from the Zarian ship. Not a warning, not a threat, a signal of peace, a girl's voice, calm, direct, free. This ship is no longer under the control of warlords or rebels. It belongs to no empire. We are creating something new. If you want war, turn away. If you want peace, talk to us. My name is Arya. I was once your slave. Now, I'm nobody's. On Earth, her name spread like fire across broken screens and whisper networks. Not a hero, not a queen, a spark. Humans everywhere looked to the stars with hope again, and Vexor. He stayed, not as a master, not as a protector, but as an ally, learning, changing, healing one night. Arya sat alone, staring into deep space. The stars weren't just lights anymore. They were paths, and for the first time in her life, she didn't feel like she had to run. She had chosen her direction. She had chosen her name. She had chosen her power. She had chosen humanity.